Before the next episode of X Job Downloaded starts, I have a big favour to ask. If you've enjoyed any of our episodes so far, please can you click on the follow button on your platform. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon and YouTube. It costs nothing to follow, but makes a real difference to me as a podcast producer. Thank you. This interview is being tape recorded. My name is Paul Maleary and this is X Job Downloaded, and today I'm going to interview the human lie detector, Darren Stanton. Now, Darren and I worked together on the Judge Rinder's interrogation room, which was on A&E, Sky Crime, I think it was, or was it A&E? I can't remember now, Darren.
It's Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Crime Investigation Channel as well.
Yeah, everything. So we worked together on that, and we were fortunate enough to meet each other. Now, Darren, I ask everybody this, but where did it all begin for Darren Stanton? What's Darren Stanton all about? And the floor is yours, sir.
Sure. So basically, it started at the age of 5, being forced into having piano lessons by my parents. So
you're brilliant at piano. I've seen your stuff, mate. You're absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. It's still my passion. I know you play as well. Play guitar in the band and whatnot. So, you know, you get a real buzz from playing an instrument, especially in a band. So that was my plan, to be in music. And, you know, while the rest of my mates were out sort of playing football and whatnot, I was like doing my scales.
Brilliant.
And then you sort of fast forward to when you get into sort of 17, you get into other things, don't you? So what I'd found, though, Paul, is probably like yourself. I'd always had a real interest in people. I'd always found it really interesting to talk to people. And often I'd meet someone for the first time and we'd talk, and, you know, friends would say, how long have you known them? And I'm like, I've just met them. So I was able to kind of get that rapport quite quickly. So, you know, I had a real passion for just, again, finding out what makes people tick. And then I kind of did stop playing, but I kind of didn't follow the aspiration of being like a classical pianist or a professional musician. I put that on the back burner. So I ended up doing sort of psychology at uni. And I'd love the show Cracker back in the day. For those that are watching, that remember that show with Robbie Coltrane. I thought, wow, a psychologist goes around like helping the cops catch people, catch the bad guy. And as we know, that job doesn't exist because no psychologist would be allowed on interview. But I did psychology nevertheless, and found I really got on with it. And then back in the day, I'm talking the 90s now, there was a lot more money swirling around. So I did my training at Nottingham Prison, Watford in Nottinghamshire, became like a trainee assistant psychologist in the prison service. And I found that I hated the environment, hated the whole thing. And then did that for quite a while. And then I had quite a lot of friends in the police, because growing up, our house was always a T-spot for cops on foot patrol, you know, so I had a real close connection with a lot of police officers. And
that's what we drink.
Yeah, one of my dad's friends, he was around one day, and he says, we're recruiting, why don't you join the job? And for the next couple of weeks, I was on and ahhing, and then, you know, I spent a bit of time, you could then, like the old control, you go in the control room at night and sit there and listen to jobs coming in. And so I, you know, went for the job and got in and spent just under 20 years, you know, pretty much done a lot of stuff like traffic, but mostly career response officer. And obviously up here we do all our interviews. I know now it's passed on to sort of civilian investigators, but, you know, sort of did it. So I had a real passion for interviewing and found that I got on really well with it. And then 2010 really was a catalyst. I lost both my parents, and I pretty much come to a point where I wanted to do something different. And I've been mooching around for quite a while, Paul, really doing public speaking, and I'd had a little bit of media work coming in. Wasn't being paid a penny for it. But then I got asked to do the 2010 general election, because when clamoring Clegg and Brown, that was the first ever live televised debate.
Right.
The Americans had done it since the 60s with Kennedy. So that was the kind of the first thing that Sky News did. And they said, oh, can you assess the body language for us? And I said, yeah, great. So again, never got paid a penny. But since that moment, it just snowballed. And before I knew it, I was assessing the Iraq Enquiry Select Committee, Rupert Murdoch with the phone hacking scandal, was writing for the press. Then I got an email from America, which I thought was a scam, to go and shoot a TV pilot in Los Angeles. I kept deleting the email thinking it was some sort of flag. And then I'd got an agent by then. He says, "No, have you heard this company? Why have you not contacted?" I said, "No, why?" He says, "The kosher. It's not a scam." So within a fortnight, I was in Santa Monica shooting a TV pilot.
Fantastic.
So it's a bit different from waking up at 4 a.m, scraping a windscreen on mornings to suddenly being in 28-degree temperature.
Fantastic.
And then that's the kind of acceleration. Yeah. So since 2010, my feet haven't touched the ground really.
It's fun, isn't it? Because I mean, we all do things for nothing. I mean, that's the reality, because we want to succeed and get on and doing the media stuff. But you know what? It's about exposure as much as anything else. And if we didn't want to do it, we wouldn't do it, would we?
I think that's the thing about it, Paul. Is people think. I mean, I mentioned the other night. I was watching the telly. You was on a documentary about Barrymore. So you popped up. So people think we're making tens of thousands of pounds, but they don't realise the reality. No. I mean, I've done the one show. I've done This Morning, and I won't say what, but it's not a lot. As you, I can probably guess how much I got paid. So if you're doing this for the money, you're going to have a rude awakening, really.
Yeah. You need your bumps felt. Oh yeah, there are people that go on and become Holly Willoughbys and all that sort of stuff, and we get that. But but it's an interesting world. You're known as the human lie detector, but you look at behaviours and body language, and you pick apart what people do and how they don't engage or do engage.
Yeah. I mean, that was a label that a journalist, I can't remember which paper, but a journalist kind of dubbed me that. A lot of my obviously background comes from psychology. Most of it comes from interviewing on a daily basis, because as we know, statistically, most people will lie to us on interview.
Yeah.
So a lot of it comes from that. And then I did other stuff while I was in the job. And again, there's no money around now, but the job would, if you wanted to do a course and you could justify it would help you in the job, like the CPD stuff, they'd pay for you. So, I did things like hypnosis, NLP, which is like a communication tool. And then sort of a while back, I did a thing called micro-expression training, and lots of other sort of bits and bobs. So what I do is a mishmash. So really, as we know, you can't spot lies. There's, no one sort of, there's no, even polygraph, there's nothing that can say, oh, this person's lying. All we're really looking for is a change in emotion. So really all I'm good at is, and we call it sensory acuity, is I've become very good at seeing when people's emotions change. So example, on interview, if people that are watching that are cops or ex-cops, there's a point in the interview that might suddenly shift. The person is saying, yeah, I'm happy to talk to you, officer. I've got nothing to hide. But then at some point, as you begin to unpick that account, there may be emotional changes. The lips may go very pale. Now, your average cop's not trained in this, so they won't see it. And again, it's not admissible. So I couldn't go to the inspector and say, can I do such and such, because he's looked in a certain direction, because as you know, we get laughed out of custody. So really what I'm looking for is when people are afraid of the consequence. So we're not looking at the frothy stuff. Like I work on shows like Love Island and Strictly and Celebrity, but the big stuff. So I do a lot of CT work with various agencies. I do sort of security, aviation security. So when they're talking to potential suspects, that if they get caught out, the consequences are big. The brain goes into a state called cognitive overload, and that in turn goes to what we call detection apprehension. So the more that someone wants to try and maintain this calm composure, the more it wants to leak out. And no matter who somebody is, a politician, a king, we've all got the same neurology and physiology. So we're all prone to these techniques. And very often, I've been asked by journalists, well, are you a good liar? And I'm like, well, no, if I teach you how to do it, you can catch me out too. So it doesn't mean that I'm impervious to it, even though I do it for a living.
That's interesting, because I remember when we did the promotional shoot in London, and Rob was a bit reluctant to do his his bit with you, wasn't he? He was sort of, I don't feel very comfortable.
he says I'm a good liar, Darren. I've been a lawyer all my life. I was like, I know, but even like the kids, it's a little kids game, and invite you at home to do this. If you get a coin, and then you do what's called a baseline. So you'll say to somebody, right, put your hands behind your back, put the coin in one hand or the other, and just be honest with me. So when I say, is it here? If it's not there, say no. But if it's here, say yes. So you're taking a mental snapshot of that person's face for truth. And then you say, now put your hands behind your back, keep the same hand, change the hand. But then this time answer yes for both questions. So you're going to lie to me. Now, a quick tip is what they'll do is unconsciously, they'll either tilt their nose or they'll tilt their head very subtly, because unconsciously the brain wants to give it away. So that's a very subtle first step that you can do to get into this.
Wow. Your TV stuff, I mean, you've worked with all the stars. Where do they sit you when you're doing things like I'm a Celeb or Strictly? Where do you actually sit in relation to the filming? Or do they send you...
Yeah, I'm not on the set or anything. I just watch it like everybody else watches it. Right. I get some rushes, so I do get some extra footage. So I'm looking for, so for example, I just did GB News the other night about Farage. No, I think Farage has surprised a lot of people because he's gone in there, he's been quite nurturing. He's become almost like the daddy of the camp already.
Yeah. And
he's been telling them how he nearly got killed in a plane crash. So I think people have seen a very different side to him. And once you take the man out of the politics, so he had a bit of a clash with the French guy, because obviously the French guy is very anti-Brexit. And so he flashed what's called a disgust micro-expression, which is that's slowed down. So it's just almost like a bad smell. Right. So Nigel said something and he got to flash that. So if you slow it right down, even though he's trying not to be rude, internally he is experiencing that emotion of disgust. Or the other good one's contempt, which is like a one-sided smile.
An emoji.
But it's very, I mean, emojis are great. They are like micro expressions, really.
I hadn't watched it until last night, and I've got to say that I'm not a massive fan of Nigel Farage, not at all.
No.
And did I want to stay in the European Union? Yes, I did, because I wanted my kids to have a free reign and travel. But anyway, we are where we are. But I did think that young lady, Nella Rose, whatever her name is quite vile. The way that she doesn't listen to anybody. She's an influencer on social media, but I don't know who she's influencing, because she just does not. She's got no cognizance of anybody else's feelings or behaviours.
Well, I had to Google her because I didn't have a Scooby-Doo who she was. I mean, they say celebrity, but I thought, who is she? That YouTube influencer. Well, it's a stretch, but I agree. She's playing a bit of a mind game, really. She had a few. I think you're right. She's had a few conflicts, and I actually think she's going to be a casualty quite early.
Yeah,
I think she's going to be quite early doors.
I do, mate. To be honest with you, I think I won't be voting either way. I'm not spending a penny on it.
No, me neither.
but
I get paid for it. That's it. I only watch it. It's like things like Love Island. I mean, I do it. I watch it because it's my job. But
my nephew came second in Love Island.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, Jamie and Camilla. They're still together.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah, they're still together. And they've got a couple of lovely kids, and and they do a lot of stuff for charity. They're not archetypical Love Island people, if that makes sense.
Yes.
They do the influencing and whatever, but they're quite. They're not quite, they're not shallow in the same way a lot of them are on there.
Yeah.
When you get these phone calls, I mean, you said you've got yourself an agent now. How did that all come about?
Well, I applied for quite a lot of agents. I thought, I need an agent, and you know what, Paul? I don't know if you've got one or not, but sometimes you don't really. As long as you're in contact with, as long as your contact details. I mean, most of the BBC producers, everything have got my phone number now. So, I'm fortunately, touch wood, I'm kind of the go-to guy that they'll go to now for this sort of stuff. But it comes in very useful for negotiating. I mean, they'll say, how much do you want? And I'm like, well, you sort that out with my agent. So really, I initially contacted quite a few. And because I was quite early in my career, I didn't have like a massive amount of stuff. So they were like, "We'll come back in a couple of years." But I'd kind of just thought, well, I don't need one. I'll do it myself. But then they started contacting me.
Right.
So that's how that came about. And I've had probably 4 agents since sort of 2010. But the guy I'm with at the moment, he's fantastic.
I mean, they must have all, they all know you, so they can come directly to you, all your BBC producers, and you're situated in Nottingham. So, Manchester's not if you need to get to Media City and places like that, it's fairly easy.
It's a great, I mean, I prefer working in Manchester because London can be, for me, it's a bit of a pain, but
yeah,
it's either London or Manchester. Yeah, so geographically, I'm in a good place, really.
Yeah, I'm up to Manchester in the next couple of weeks actually to see someone up at Media City. But but you're right. I mean, people don't know. Certainly, when you come out of the cops, you don't know what to charge. When someone says, "Oh, how much do you want? What's your fee?" It's like, well, I don't know. And I think sometimes, and we said about it earlier on, some of these producers are expecting you to ask, what is the fee? But if you don't ask, you don't get. So it's a really difficult thing because you and I'm quite happy, not like the hotel they put us up in that we had when we did the promo. But you get a nice hotel or you get a car to pick you up and whatever, which is lovely, and you get your sandwiches. I don't really get stressed about it, but it does. As I say, it's just knowing what to charge and at what time.
Yeah.
So what projects are you on at the moment? You're doing I'm a Celebrity. Strictly?
Yeah, so I do Strictly, and I think Married at First Sight's coming out, so that's all for the press. I've got this live UK tour happening all next year on the UK, and that's really like an interactive kind of thing. So I'm not a magician, but it's kind of like a Darren Brown show in that it's interactive. So we get people on stage and we do some stuff with them. I do a routine that's called Anything to Declare. So, for example, we'll get like a little bag of sugar as if it's cocaine. And we say, you guys in the audience are now going to be honorary customs officers. So we'll get them on stage. They decide who's going to be the drug smuggler. And then they apply what they've learned in the first half of the show to see who's lying. And it's amazing because you'll be amazed that even in sort of 30, 40 minutes of kind of like teaching them how to do it, a lot of the audience get it right and they can justify why. So it's not just a guess. So we do a lot of interactive stuff like that. And then I'm going to be talking about the more darker side of stuff, that you and I do, which is more about the killers and how what I do helps law enforcement, catch a suspect.
Well,
so that's all the way through that next year.
You raised the thing about Barrymore. What happened with Barrymore, myself and Paul Thomas, we got selected by a psychologist, looked at our profiles and went through it and said who would be starstruck and who wouldn't be starstruck. And Rocky and I got selected because they knew that we would just get on with the job. We wouldn't be asking for autographs other than on a custody record. Yeah. But you've worked with people who go the other way, so that that's how we got selected. But the theatre stuff's really good. Colin Sutton, my lovely friend Colin Sutton. I don't know if you've ever met him, but you will meet him. He's absolutely brilliant. He's doing a theatre tour at the moment, and he's loving it because he's meeting all these great people that have seen him do his TV stuff, and Martin Clunes, etc., playing him. And but it's absolutely superb. How many dates have you got booked?
I think I'm looking at 50 at the moment, so it's going to be quite busy. That's around the country. The first one's in Lincoln on December the 5th. December the 1st. But then we're on the rest out sort of from February onwards.
December the 1st, like next week, December the 1st?
Yeah, I've got the first one on the So
wow.
Lincoln, but then the rest are in the new year. And I've got a second book coming out. So I wrote an initial book many years ago. That was more to do with personal development, but this book is all about really how I do what I do. It's kind of autobiographical, really. So it's how I got into it. It's my journey, plus it teaches people how to do it. And I've called it, to be honest with you, because they say statistically, most people, before they go tell you a big whopper, they'll say, to be honest, Paul. And it's not that you say, the greatest of respect, officer.
Yeah, there's no respect.
So I called it, to be honest with you.
Oh, brilliant. And when's that being released?
We should have been out already. It's going to be out in April, that is. Okay. I'm doing sort of book signings in Waterstones for that one.
Oh, fantastic!
So
And your original book, that's still available,
that's
self-development
Project
stuff?
Jam, Joel. Yeah, that's on Amazon. You can get that anywhere, really. Yeah, if you Google it.
Oh,
Your
brilliant.
The easiest place is going to be Amazon. Yeah, it's got some good reviews.
So the future's bright for Darren, isn't it? I mean, you've got... COVID was horrible to you, wasn't it? I mean...
Wow, yeah. I mean, my bread and butter really, Paul, is public speaking. Is I get booked, well, before COVID all over the world, but now it's more UK based, and also with recruitment, HR, because of the fact that Teams and Zoom are so prevalent now. Before COVID, I was going into sort of high level interviews, physically sitting in as a silent observer and assessing candidates. Whereas now, I either sort of just train HR people in this, or they could just kind of do it themselves. So, yeah, Zoom's been a bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and COVID was tough for a lot of people, but when you're doing what you do, you need to have that human interaction. You need to physically meet people. It's no good doing it on Zoom. You can't get the true reflection of what's actually going on.
No, because you're only getting the top off. You don't get the reads of everything else. So, I did quite a few public speaking gigs on Zoom, but it's never the same because, like you say, you're not getting that human connection because my stuff's very animated, very interactive.
Yeah, of course it is. So, what does the future look like for Darren? What do you? I mean, I know that you've written stuff for television, and you're trying to get that commissioned, which we all know is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But what does the future look like for Darren?
Well, again, I'm still pitching a couple of ideas I've got. And really, my passion is the public speaking. So, I want to do a lot more of that. And I'm looking at a move to Cornwall as well. It might happen next year, but failing that the following year. So I love Cornwall. So
Talk about isolate yourself, mate. You're going to be out the bloody way down there. You're getting further from Manchester and London.
Well, you can be. I mean, they've started flies now, aren't they? So you can be in London in sort of 40 minutes if you need to be from Penzance. So
and you've done a number of podcasts, haven't you? I did one with the chap that you did one with, Sean Atwood.
Oh yeah, I did that the other night. Yeah.
Mate, he focused on the fact that I was a Mason and that I had some knowledge around the Essex Boys, which I never worked on. I never ever worked on the Essex Boy murders, but I've just done a film that came out with Signature and Revelation, which is on Sky at the moment, and I make it quite clear I never ever worked on the job. But some people just get in their heads that I did, including him. I think he thought I was trying to hide stuff from him.
Well, I did it, and it amazes me the trolls because I think I had pretty terrible trolls on there. But again, as you know, I'm a Mason too, and I've not got it on today. But I usually wear my ring, and
you've got your square and compass on your lapel.
Oh, I do. Yes, you spotted that. So the amount of rubbish. The fact, one person said, I've screenshotted it and I've zoomed in. It's a Masonic ring. And I'm like, well, really? That's what you're doing in your spare time? You're not listening to the content. You're not listening to taking the positives out of the interview. You're more concerned the fact that I'm a Freemason.
It's absolutely incredible what some people get hung up about. I think I've said it to you before, but it's Boy Scouts for big boys. That's how I view Freemasonry. And my friends are absolutely brilliant that take part in it. I'm terrible at it. I don't go often enough. I don't go often. I don't go at all. But it is. But it is what it is. But yeah, he got really hung up, or his viewers got really hung up on it, and he's got a hell of a following.
He has.
Really. But it's all about the conspiracy, and he's got an interesting background himself.
Yeah,
really interesting.
I didn't realise until after the interview. I googled him and thought,
oh. He's very open. He's very, very open about it.
Yeah.
He got convicted of drug supply out in the USA, and he's a very, very interesting guy. But he does attract some real strange people.
Yeah, I just laugh at the the trolls really. Some of the stuff they come out with, but
do you know what? I get quite disappointed by it because I did this thing with Revelation and Signature around the Essex Boys, and people there's this massive conspiracy around the Essex Boys stuff, and people say, the police were never involved, that they messed out, the police didn't mess out, they got the wrong people. No, they got the right people. But there's one guy, and I won't name him, but he's a retired police officer. This is somebody who's got massive attention to detail, okay? And he started putting out that my wife works for somebody who used to handle an informant who featured in this film. Well, my wife works for us. That's the first thing. Then he goes on about, I've said in one of my podcasts that I was in the army. I've never said I was in the army. You just think, where are these people? But you get trolled. I mean, I've had horrendous messages, they hope you die. It's just, people get really hung up on it.
About this, about that. I did one with Jack's mates, who are, if they watch this, they're a fantastic couple of guys, Jack's mates. They've got a massive following. And I told a story about an incident that I dealt with. And they were going, well, that's rubbish. Well, I'm cutting out the expletives. That's rubbish. He would never have done that as a civilian. And I'm like, no, I attended as an operational police officer. I never said I was a civilian. Like, so they get a bone and they just won't listen to anything else.
No, they don't. And the thing is, if people understood, why you put the weight on during COVID, you're unwell, etc., then maybe they'd be a bit more respectful, but they're not respectful.
They're not respectful, no, they're terrible.
Absolutely, honestly, people are vile.
Initially, I did respond to a couple and say, obviously I was ill and the meds put that. But you think, you'd go on, sorry about that. But no, it made them worse. I'm like, if that was in the street, they wouldn't go tap me on the shoulder and say, you know what, Darren, I don't like you, and give us verbal, or some might give us verbal abuse. But it's the anonymity, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Warrior, the venom seep out of the fingers because they think they're. The only time I've bit, and I'll be honest with you, I probably shouldn't have done it, but there was one person who was particularly vile, and I managed to do a little bit of open source data, and I found out this man was a 76-year-old in Brighton, right? And I actually put his photo on my Twitter feed and put, ever wondered about these people that sit up at 3 a.m. in their pants, right? Like just spitting venom out. And his son contacted me, who followed me, and he said, my dad's in tears. We live in a small town just outside Brighton. He says, well, everyone's talking about it. Can you take it off? I was like, no. I said, he's about to become a bit of a celebrity himself. I said, and I did take it off. But I said, just let him know, out of respect, because he's in his 70s, there's a living, breathing person at the other end of that keyboard. Yeah. And just because we choose to put ourselves on telly, Paul, it's not a warrant to be verbally or abused.
No, it's not. Absolutely.
We're human. I know you and I are tough and we've got thick skins, but there's lots of people in the media, as we've seen, that are vulnerable. And
oh yeah,
Well,
you only have to go and look at the Caroline Flack stuff, and
exactly.
and there are a number of Caroline Flacks out there in the A-list celebs who are very vulnerable because they're wrapped in cotton wool most of the time, and as a direct result, there's a barrier between them and reality, and then people start becoming really, really vile. And I find it. I've got the hide of a rhino, but it's when it's an untruth.
Yes, that's the thing.
It's when I get very animated, and to a point where the stuff with the Essex boys, I'd actually gone and spoken to a KC friend of mine and said, look, if this continues, I need to get a letter out and get it to stop, because it's not true. And the problem is that these are former senior officers in the police who know it's untrue, and they know the risks that they face by telling untruths. And I just, as I say, I'm not going to take it forward at the moment, but if it continues, then I probably will. But Darren, what's planned for the rest of this year? I mean, you're at Lincoln on the 1st of December. Yes,
I'm doing that. And then, to be honest with you, I've been trying to get a bit of downtime, which has not happened all year. So I'm not moaning.
No.
I'm clamping down the work. So I think December, the rest of December, I'm just going to try and take a little bit of a break, I think. I was hoping to shoot out to America for a couple of weeks, because before COVID, I used to spend Christmas in the States.
Right.
Get a bit of sun. So potentially might just shoot out, see what deals are going around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you want to Eventbrite and just put Darren Stanton or human lie detector, you'll get the Eventbrites. Go on my website, darrenstanton.com, and then obviously Twitter or X, what's silly name, at Darren Stanton. So anything Darren Stanton, human lie detector, people will be able to reach me.
Okay. Darren, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you today, but I say this to everybody, and as an older police officer, you'll remember this, but have you got anything you'd like to add, alter or correct in relation to the statement that you've made today?
No comment.